All right, so Matt, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. Well, I don't really have anything necessarily prepared, but I did happen to have Codex up, and I wanted to. So, Alex, you mentioned human on the loop, and Alex, I know that you are a very strong believer in the idea that ideally humans should not need to review AI generated code, and a big part of that is because the idea is with TDD and really mindful test coverage, we should be able to define the success criteria and the tests and make it so AI can go ahead and generate things on its own. So what we're looking at is Codex. And so for those that have not used Codex before, it is OpenAI's desktop app. Well, Codex is the service, but this is the desktop app. And what I'm doing is I have my agentic pipeline called Elves, which is kind of an end-to-end pipeline where you start with a PRD and you start with a technical guide, and it goes through. And I can explain more about Elves later, but you end up with a deliverable, some sort of diff, a code change that is any level of granularity from a feature to a whole section to maybe a little app. It really depends on what's in your PRD. And there's two projects that each represent a different level of oversight of Alex's human on the loop.
Sorry to
So,
interrupt, Matt. Is it possible for you to make the font a little bigger?
oh yeah, let me see what I can do here because I know this is a little. Um, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Is that better?
Much better,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thanks, guys. I heard a hand go up, and I should have stopped. I'll make sure I listen for that in the future. Um, all right. So, Blind Spot is a legal tort case project that we're basically creating a way to process evidence and create this very detailed, like triple verified pathway of a claim that we're making in a case, all the way back to the original artifacts that are in Google Drive. And one of the guys that I'm working with created a build plan. He basically created a bunch of specs, and I'll see if I can open it up here. That uh, if we go to open file, let's see. Yeah, so they've changed the UI recently. But the point is, he gave me a spec and he said, okay, we just need to build this. And so what I did with Elves is I said, all right, I'm just going to let you run, get the next PRD set up, go ahead and create the tasks, make sure all that's good, and then kick off the run and keep an eye on it. And I said, set a scheduled event to check on it in X minutes. So if we expand what it did, it loaded the skill, it went through and it validated everything, it converted it into tasks, and then it kicked off the run. And a run is basically an execution of the Elves harness, which spins up an instance of Codex, in this case, an instance of GPT-5.5 extra high, and it pulls each task one at a time from a SQLite database and builds it. And it writes tests, and if there's a browser, it functionally tests those things. But my point being is that this just ran on its own, and it had a heartbeat to check every now and then and go, what's going on with the run? What is it working on? Do I need to stop it? So this was very kind of hands off. And at the end, it went through the entire run. It created a PR. It auto addressed the PR comments. And now I have a PR that I'm basically ready to review and merge, right? So that's one level of kind of like working with AI to do something. And then very quickly on a different project, this was much more inline. So this was not a run. And to Alex, this is, I think, more what you're talking about, where you're closer to the agent that's doing the work. So you're able to intervene and go, hang on a second, this is not quite what I want to do. And I was trying to find an example of me doing that. But when I talk about the different levels of granularity and oversight you can do with AI, like where we are right now, that's kind of, I think, the big decision that agentic engineers have to figure out is like, what do I put into my pipeline that is a PRD and a technical guide, and it creates tasks from those, and the harness just does it. And I can trust that the harness will do it. I'll examine the PR. And what do we need to actually be in with the agent in this way for to go, okay, well, this is just too tricky to send to the harness. It requires just too much hand holding. So let's just kind of do it in line. So in the future, I think maybe next time we meet, if anyone would like to hear more about elves and how it works and all that, I'm happy to talk through it. But I just felt like pulling up Codex in case anyone would be interested in just seeing the human on the loop, how that might look in practice. So
Fantastic. Thank you very
that's
much.
what I got. Sure.
Thank you. So first of all, would love to learn more about elves. Totally. And I believe that warrants an entire session. Just deep dive. If you don't mind, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I would love that. Sure.
Second thing I want to mention is there are two aspects. I just want to explain how I work with the man on the loop, human on the loop, and then maybe Brandon, you're next. So the one thing that I find useful, and I don't know, maybe Elves solves that, but I just want to throw it out. Every now and then, I see how the project is growing. It's almost like gardening. It just keeps, getting more and more, adding capabilities. I feel I have sufficient experience after years of doing this that I think I know when to stop, intervene, and say, okay, let's now run mutation testing. Because I want to see, mutation testing is a pretty intrusive activity. And you cannot just bake it into the pipeline because it's going to just really slow down to a crawl, right? So I think human is still needed unless we come up with some new technology to make a call. Okay, now I want to run mutation testing. And oh, oops, I see we have 32 surviving mutants. Okay, what's up with that? And then they go in and they fix it. They're great. The agents can kill it, but you need to know when to ask them to kill it. What it does, in my opinion, it kills the bloat. I feel that no matter how crisp and articulate and clear your expectations are and all that, bloat just kind of creeps up on you. And it doesn't matter if it's AI, if it's human team. I just find that bloat is some kind of a side effect that we have trouble just being on top of that. And so mutation testing is pretty, in my opinion, pretty good at detecting bloat and telling you, whoa, okay, maybe now is the time for a little bit of house cleaning. Just, get rid of the craft, get rid of some kind of especially AI is famous for adding unnecessary, kind of, what's the word? Almost Baroque Rococo, frills and things that on the kind of, I don't need this. And so mutation testing helps sniff that out, right? But the second thing I want to also mention is I'm personally enjoying being more involved because I find that these guys are actually pretty good at, if I'm working with them and interacting and throwing challenges at them, they come up with some scenarios that I would never come up with.
Yeah.
And oftentimes these scenarios are, oh yeah, wow, I like that. Thank you. So you kind of tease certain things out, and it's most like discovering the domain or discovering the murky corners of the domain. And sometimes they're amazing. They come up with some ideas that you would never, even a domain expert would forget to do it, right? Yeah. And they're like, hey, I propose, how about this? And they come up with some edge case. I'm like, yes, you nailed it, And so I find that is that's worthwhile my time for me sitting there like a supervisor, whatever you want to call it, foreman. And yes, it is involved, but to your point, Matt, I still feel that examining the produced code is a waste of time. So I'm not opening source code, and I'm not looking at the code. I'm looking at tests. I'm looking at surviving mutants. This is my area where I'm in control, right? I feel like if it's done this way so far, maybe I can be proven wrong, but so far the resulting code is pretty damn acceptable. I'm not saying it's brilliant, and just, of course you can have phenomenal engineers who are gonna make a better code, but for it's fit for the purpose. It
Right.
is not going to become it's not going to impede further progress,
Mhm.
And whether it's readable or not, this is a debatable, because readability is more a question of familiarity.
Yeah.
Like if you are kicking around in certain tech and you've spent years, then it's going to be readable to you with some idioms. To me, this is going to be all Greek. I'm like, well, what's going on here, right? So objectively measuring readability is still a moot point. And so I'm not too hung up on that, but I'm really hung up on discovering the domain and
Yep.
working with them to almost like archaeological expedition. We're like taking off a little
Right.
bit of a layer. Oh, wait a minute, this looks like an interesting artifact. And then it may or may not turn out to be something of value, but
Yeah.
it's worth exploring, right? So anyway, enough from my talk. Over to you. I think Matt is first, okay, and then Brandon.
Just very quick, because I know Brandon's been waiting to speak, but just a few thoughts, Alex. First, and I think most importantly, the AI journey for all of us is very personal. It is for anyone that works successfully with AI is able to do it because they have figured out the way that AI works in their specific workflow with their specific brain. And it's going to be different for all of us. And the only way that we can figure out what that is through exploration, just as you've been doing. What are the areas of my flow or my brain that are good, that work great? How can I use frontier tech to accelerate that? And then what are the areas that I'm not so great at? And that's really where I try to lean in. For example, I have pretty severe ADHD. And so for me, it's really important that AI acts kind of like as my second brain, because as long as I can have this cache brain of stuff that I slips through, usually like a sieve, I can move more stuff through. And it's not about moving more stuff. It's more about I'm able to keep on top of these things easier with less stress of like, what am I forgetting? Secondly, what you've described in terms of the repo hygiene is absolutely the hardest part of AI. It is, okay, AI can give me a feature, but if I don't have like ratcheted down deterministic quality checks, my repo is going to look like shit. There's going to be thousands of files you don't need. I've seen it. Some of the most popular agentic folks on LinkedIn, I've seen their repos, and it's clear that an engineer has never looked at it once. I've pulled them. There's like 7,000 files. It's a disaster. Well, the good news is that's fairly, that's just comes down to the harness. That comes down to how that agent is invoked and what happens before and after. So for example, Alex, to your point about bloat, in ELVs, there is an adversarial verifier agent that looks at what's built and it looks at the PRD and it goes, have the requirements of this PRD been met? And is there anything extraneous in here that should not be here that needs to be removed? And that implementation agent is not allowed to mark that task as complete until the verifier agent tells it that it's done. And the verifier is the opposite model. So if I'm using Codex for implementation, my verifier is Claude and vice versa. That way, every piece of work has two frontier models that are basically validating that this thing's actually right. And having those kinds of quality checks. So like I look to make sure there's no lines, no files that are over 500 lines in length, right? So we're looking for file length. We're looking for test passing. We're doing linting, all of that stuff. And all that's required before anything can be merged. So, even with frontier models, in my opinion, that's the only way you can get reliable production code. Opus 4.7, without that sort of guidance, will produce bloated garbage some of the time. GPT 5.5 does it a lot less. I'm over on Codex now all the time. But I guess that's it for me. Lots of thoughts about what you're saying. But again, our journey with AI is not about, I got to put everything through a pipeline and automate everything. And it's not about, the right way is if I'm in closely with it. It's about you personally. How can AI accelerate what you're trying to do? So, Brandon, please, you've been so patient.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Just a quick question. and stop me if it's too low level. Back to Elbs, when you said, I think it was tasks stored in a SQLite database, correct?
That's correct.
These are like low level implementation tasks that the model's creating on the fly when it sees the when you're giving it the spec PRD or whatever, correct?
That's
or no?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a
Yep.
yes, there's a task gen process that
Yep.
looks at the PRD technical guide and then creates actionable tasks that are stored in SQLite and delivered through a lightweight CLI.
Yeah. Okay. And then I don't know if what I'm going to say next is really value added, but to getting to the point to not be able to look at the code at all, I'm not there 100% yet, but I will say that you can get there faster than you think.
Yeah.
And if you haven't tried it, the first step is to just try it, just to pick a project, even if it's a toy project, and get it. And the way that I'm getting there, and I have not made a custom harness like you have, Matt, because part of the way that I'm learning this is basically I'm looking at the failures every time it produces crap. I'm looking at the code to see how much crap it's produced. I'm not there to critique it. I'm there to see how far it's gone astray from the PRD and all the base rules I gave and how it should conduct itself when working on this particular application. Then I grill it and say, hey, you didn't do this. How could you do this better next time? Why are you breaking these architectural guides and stuff like that? And I use that to evolve the rules. And it gets really better quite quickly. So
that is what it's all about. It is all about the trick with all of this is with anything AI is iteration. Iteration. It is going, why didn't AI do what I thought it was going to do? And from the very beginning of my time with ChatGPT 3 years ago, that has been the mystery that has kept me drawn in of how can I make this thing do what I want it to do, and what is the dance and the language I have to do in front of this magical black box to get it to like produce this thing. And it is nothing but trial and error and failure for thousands of times. But eventually you get it. Eventually you start really reading the model and understanding it and going, okay, I'm pretty certain if I structure the prompt this way and I manage context that way and I put things in this order and that order, you start getting more consistently the results you're looking for. And then once you have that, then you start building a system around that because you're like, oh, I figured enough of it out where I can build a repeatable system. And then that repeatable system starts to grow. And yeah, then you end up with your own little software factory eventually.
Yeah. Although it's still not there. I'll tell you, on Friday, it was an infuriating day for me. I was working a lot, and I even complained in one Discord channel. I was working with Claude Code, and I noticed that for some reason it started. I asked it to write a failing test and to let me know when the test has been completed, and of course ask it to run the failing test and to see that it fails. And it goes and writes the test and comes back to me and says, okay, this test fails, over to the driver. And for some reason, I just intervened. I just went in and ran it manually, and it passed. And for the entire day, it was faking it. It was pretending like if it's running the test, and it's coming back cheerfully saying, yeah, this is failing, and it wasn't failing. But then when I reprimand it, it's like, oh shit, and it goes and fixes it, and now it fails. And I just could not for the life of me figure out why is it doing that. And and then on Saturday, I spoke with Yona a little bit about that, and he suggested some changes to the prompt. And I came up with a new version of the Claude MD. And then I was kicking around on Saturday, and it never pretended. Then I went back to my old Claude MD, and it also never faked it. So you see, I have no idea why he was doing it on Friday. This now sounds like superstitious, right? So like it's just unexplainable that it was so unreliable on Friday, and then on Saturday it was very reliable. So at this point, I still think talk about harness. I would like to have something like a police dog that would be on the job and sniffing and always double checking on the sidelines. Say, okay, so this agent claims that the test failed. Let me just automatically check and then reprimand him, so that I don't have to waste my time like a kindergarten teacher and say, "Did you really wash your hands?" Like, did
Yeah.
you? That is still infuriating about these things. That it
Oh,
is
yeah.
so flaky that one day the almost like the way the wind blows, and it's really upsetting to me.
Well, and you've caught this at a weird time, Alex. Like what you've described is what a lot of us have experienced with anthropic models over the last 4 to 6 weeks in particular, and it's actually the reason I moved to Codex. I was
Is it the adaptive? Yeah.
GPT-5.5 is in a class by itself in terms of its ability as a technical programming model. There is, in my opinion, Opus 4.7 doesn't touch it, doesn't come close to touching it. And so I've not caught it lying. I've not caught it doing any of those things that Opus and Anthropic models historically have done to a certain extent, but seemingly a lot more. So just in case it matters, you're also kind of catching it at a really unstable time with Anthropic models, and a lot of agentic folks are starting to move to Codex for that reason. So for what that's worth, it's not uncommon right now.
I think that's a pretty rational explanation. Thank you. So Brandon, you had a hand up, Brandon. You're on mute.
Oh yeah, sorry. Matt already sort of basically validated what I was going to say, but I would also encourage you, if you are sticking with Claude Code for the time being, I mean, yeah, there's some mysterious voodoo that just happens every now and then, and it does get moody, and Matt's right, it has been moodier over the past 6 weeks or a couple months or whatever. You can, depending on what you're doing, you could take advantage of Git hooks and hooks in Claude Code as well, which
it's a great idea.
Can get around some of the more elaborate multi-step instructions that you might have in your Cloud MD or in your rule files and stuff like. Because there's always a risk it's going to ignore your instructions, especially the more that you add.
There's also a skill you can use too. Skills as well. A skill is another great approach. There's a bunch of approaches.
Yep. While it's gotten better, inevitably, I think you need, if you want something absolutely reliable, you're going to need something like what Matt put together, like elves, for the time being, just because you need something. I don't know if I want to use the term deterministic. Everybody's always throwing that around, but you need like something that's the outside, that's the ultimate authority. Like you did step 1, step 2, step 3, and there's something I haven't tried yet, a project called Fabro. Maybe take a look at it. I'll send you a link or a message on LinkedIn, and it might speak to you. So
yeah, I'm convinced that no matter what, it's good to have like I call it a police dog, or let's say a border crossing patrol that's going to like open the trunk, let's see what's in there, something impartial that's outside of this entire shebang that should be automated and that can just confirm, yeah, we're good, or like, what's this, and then push you back, fix that, come back. You cannot move in with this big bottle of water or something, whatever they have. So I agree with you. I mean, earlier this year, I was all in with Codex and I loved it and it worked fine. And then there was this fiasco with military, whatever. There was this big outcry and my arm was twisted by some friends, like, okay, everybody's canceling OpenAI. So I switched over to Anthropic. but now I'm hearing people are wholesale abandoning the
It's
pendulum keeps swinging.
it
It's like
is, man. Yeah,
crazy.
you're all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but another thing I just want to quickly mention, I mean, I'm crazy. I have about 4 or 5 different personas and accounts that I'm digging around. So I'm noticing that if I log in with a different kind of profiling, that the same questions, that the same issues are being handled completely differently by the same. Have you noticed that? Like it's uncanny. It's like as Alex, as myself, I'm getting this kind of treatment and these kinds of outputs and results. But then I log in as Mickey Mouse, and same exact same scenario and all that gives me completely different. Even when it comes to creating images, and it's like I'm like, wow, this is incredible. How incredibly pliable and malleable and flexible this whole shebang is. And as engineers, it's our job, I think, to be on top of that, to understand, like you say, Matt, and to okay, it's fantastic. You built elves, I hear about new things. People are working on it. I'm also working on my own brand, but and here as a guild, I think our job is to provide the community and the society with reliable, truthful engine, or at least something that we can, as a guild, we can vet this and saying, okay, this is least harmful in our opinion. To offer a protection or kind of service, same as any guild. Like if you're in a guild of accountants and what, they will uphold certain quality professional standards of working, and they will organize and keep track of the malpractices and things like that and expose those. This is my kind of vision. I think Matt, you and I share that vision with the guild. It's more on the ethical side more than on the technical side, but that it's very hard to draw that line.
Yeah. Well, the ethical side, especially, my understanding of the guild and what we're trying to do is first like setting a professional standard for any agentic engineers that are part of this group, and that, our output and our deliverables will always be done with the highest standards and the highest levels of integrity and the best work we can do, essentially, as technical professionals. And it's kind of that's our mark, is that we will have production ready output. And then I think secondarily, and Alex, I think there's another area where we align on, is how can we leverage the force multiplying capabilities of this technology to finally start putting a dent into some of these large societal issues, or providing tooling or some sort of a protection or safety net for people that have been historically exploited, and people that are just being tossed around like they're in a washing machine right now, and they're in a hole and they just can't get a foothold to kind of get back out on their feet and be able to stand on their own 2 feet again. And even in this time of extreme change, where, I mean, I don't know if we had 100,000 tech workers laid off so far, we're going through a gigantic evolution right now, and there's going to be all kinds of people caught up in it. And so what I've envisioned for all of this is, look at what one person can get done with any pipeline or with any agentic flow that they've tweaked, not just elves. I mean, there's several others, all of those. Now imagine what happens if 100 people are all using those things and building towards this centralized vision of something that we feel like, if we can get this put together and get visibility into it, this could help a lot of people. And there's a lot of different directions we could go there. We've talked about, a new browser. We've talked about an on-prem device that lives in people's houses, and it plugs into their TV, and it has a video and voice agent that they can talk to about questions, stuff going on, help, I need help doing this or figuring this out, or how do I do this, anything. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, and
And
also,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt on just
no,
a
I'm done.
quick example. I don't know if you guys read, I don't know if it's made up or not, but certainly kind of illustrates the dire situation. Somebody received a call in which the callers were basically the call was their daughter is screaming in agony, and they say, we're here torturing your daughter, and we're going to kill her unless you pay the ransom. The entire call was they cloned the daughter's voice, including screaming and all that. So it was all fake. And poor people. I mean, of course, they caved and sent whatever money they could, etc. It was all AI generated. So if there is a way to fight that with another strong AI that will actually sniff it out and say, look, this is all bullshit. This is all made up. Don't buy into that. I don't know if that's realistic or not. Because these things are going to start happening more and more, where you have fake phone calls, fake this and that hitting you, and in the time of duress, people succumb. You just like, you don't have even the ability to think straight. You're just like, oh my God, I've been attacked, or this is threatening me, and people just cave. And that is how the evildoers are gonna. I don't think they're gonna pass the opportunity to do any kind of evil things and manipulate it. Like you say, Matt, we are here the sheep for the shearing, right? We've always been the unwashed masses that they just look into corralling us and taking advantage of us. But now with this powerful technology, I mean, the sky's the limit, and we need to find a way to fight back. And obviously, like you say, Matt, a lot of people are not even educated and don't even know what's going on. In my opinion, the rise of fake news is a good phenomenon, because it raises the awareness that not everything coming from the media should be trusted. Because before we were all conditioned to, okay, well, it's on the TV and it's printed in the press and it's got to be true. Not anymore. So that's one of the things I think that, and there's this thing called overtone window. I don't know if you heard of overtone window. It's a phenomenon where the public opinion about something tends to morph over time. For example, not that long ago, there was in public opinion, same-sex marriage was something like, something people get, I don't know what the word is, but today it's no big deal. Nobody thinks when they see gay marriage, nobody thinks, well, so it happened, right? So the public opinion can sway from being scandalized to being like, yeah, it's normal, and to being like, oh, it's a policy, it's like a normal thing. So one idea with the guild is also this overtone window, where for now AI is a big scary monster, and however people want to manipulate. But the guild job, I think, is to create this public opinion where it has to be vetted, it has to be, because it's the same as with any building code. Like if we were to build a new brand of automobile, and then if the general public is relying on us, the profiteers, to make sure that the car is safe, has airbags and everything else, well, that's not guaranteed. So the government steps in, and the government puts a regulation that you cannot put the car on the market unless it is proven that it has airbags built in and all the other safety features. And so even though we never see airbags, and we hope we never see them, they are there. They're guaranteed to be there. So I think for software, same thing should be for things you don't see, but they must be baked in. And you cannot put right now we can put any shitty product on the software on the market, and something bad happens, then flee the country and hope you don't get. But you see, I think that at this point, as we know, a lot of people will be building all kinds of products. Where's the ethical dimension? Where's the vetting process that says, okay, well, you cannot put this product on the market if it doesn't meet this bar or something like that. So I don't know what your guys' opinion on that. I might just being a idealist, or maybe there's a grain of truth to that. Silent means agreement or disagreement.
Well, I think the notion is good. It's just, what's the first step? What do you talked about a browser, but even with the browser, what does that mean? I'm sure you've all talked about it. This is like the first or our second meeting, Alex. I've been on the road, so I've missed a lot.
Let's say we have the we call it ACG browser. So this browser is right now, any browser I open, it will, and I go and visit some website, it will show me whatever is being pumped from the other side, right? But I want a browser that I can tell it. I'll give you one example. I'm a big animal lover, and I get very upset when I see, as I'm browsing, I see pictures of tortured animals or dead animals. That really ruins my day. I just can't take it. I can't cope with that. So I would like to have a browser that I tell it, look, never show me photos of dead and tortured animals. And so the browser should be able to intercept incoming content and pick and choose what is going to show me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's some self-imposed filtering, or if it could be really, it doesn't have to be filtering. I guess it could be vetting, like trying to get like a neutral opinion on some content you're reading that maybe it tells you this is fake or this is not, this is a slant here, or whatever.
So that would be baked in, but also I want to be in a position where I'm in the driver's seat and this browser is loyal to me and it serves me. So my preference is like, I don't want ever to see such and such things, because I think that's technically possible, hopefully, so that I can blacklist things that I just don't show it to me. When you receive your DOM, just go quickly through DOM and just eliminate those elements that contain content that I find objectionable. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of getting back to the on-prem device, the way that I see your idea being manifest is so the tricky thing is all of that is inference. So it has to look at every image and not just trust the metadata, it has to analyze the image before showing it. So that has a cost both in terms of latency and actual cost, because it has to evaluate that image. Now, what we've been seeing is that cloud inference costs are starting to rise, right? Like the $20 a month plan with Claude Code isn't really going to be enough to do that much anymore. You can still get quite a lot done with OpenAI's $20 plan, but my point being, someone has to pay for that inference to go through. Think about how much web browsing you do just in one day. Think about how many images would have to be scanned and parsed and verified. That is a massive, massive amount of inference that would be completely unaffordable to the kind of people that we would want to be marketing this to. So I've kind of seen this as an on-prem device that can run an OSS model that's maybe a 9 billion parameter model, maybe it's 15, I don't know what it is, but I am a heavy user and I have a heavy interest in local inference. I have a Mac Studio over here. I typically will download the best models I can run on this machine because I want to get to a point where we're not giving cloud providers any money. I want to do my whole pipeline, all of Elves right here from my Mac Studio, and that will let me completely unplug from this stuff. So building the kind of thing you're talking about, I think one thing we'd have to consider is, well, where's that inference going to come from? And in my opinion, the most likely path is trying to find a $500 or less box that can run a powerful enough vision capable model to do the things you're doing. And I think we're technically at that point right now. I think hardware, there's enough Mac Mini-like machines that could do something like that. And that would be just one part of a comprehensive system. Maybe it's just a one-time $450 purchase, and then it's all local inference on their machine, and nothing has to leave to go to the cloud.
Exactly. I would say at this point we are at a similar stage as we were 35 years ago with the dial-up, or 30 years ago with the internet dial-up. And it's slow. It has to mature. It has to get better. Eventually we got into the high-speed internet connectivity, etc. I think that technology must crunch to that point where, like you say, Matt, it's a consumer level. You can buy something at Walmart or something, just like a box, and it has enough juice to afford. You can afford those things without having to pay anyone. It should be democratized. Even to the point, there was a maybe 25 years ago, this initiative to send laptops to children in Africa. I don't know if you remember that, this kind of
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot the name, the guy who was launching that, so that all the kids get education and internet connectivity. That was the good old days of utopia, when we didn't think that social media are evil, etc. But now we think twice, and that's why we're here. We want to protect general public from being lied to and being exploited mercilessly and being taken advantage of. People, good-hearted people who have best intentions in the world and just get tricked into all kinds of devious things. We see that happen all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like the professional market is another gigantic target for us.
Yeah.
Hiring is broken, LinkedIn is broken, the jobs are broken. Our whole way of finding work right now is completely broken for all of us, not just the kind of people that we're envisioning here. It's for all of us. And people have tried to fix this problem, right? How many job boards have we seen? How many job site services have we seen? Hundreds. And LinkedIn is still there. Like, I'd love to replace LinkedIn with something else. People have tried that too, but no one's tried it yet, coming from this approach of this absolute superpowered force multiplier capability that we have, where if we can corral all of our talents and abilities into a single cohesive product centered vision, we do have a chance of building something that could really unseat some of these things that we thought could never be unseated. They're just too big. Well, those days are past. There are no sacred cows, in my opinion, in the software world these days. It doesn't matter how big they are. Any of these things can be taken down with the right product and the right visibility. And so I think that's a very field ripe for harvest, where we can go, let's help people find work, because a lot of people want to work and we're not making that connection. And that's, again, the kind of gigantic initiative that we could just focus all of our guns towards, or a percentage of them, right? And just start figuring out, well, what does this look like if you remove any technical constraints and you remove any technical difficulties, and it comes down to defining what we're building and then executing that build with frontier model and cutting edge tooling. What are we really capable of building? And I just don't think we've explored that yet collectively. Not just our group. I'm talking about agentic devs in particular. So
yeah, and I totally agree. And the one thing that I find, maybe I'm wrong, but I keep reading a lot about people equating this power with vendors. This reminds me of the early days of the internet, where everybody thought the web is AOL. I don't know if you guys remember AOL, which is laughable. AOL was a walled garden, right? You remember, Matt, right? It was a Mickey Mouse
I
thing.
remember.
Yeah, and I remember getting CDs in the box of cereal, to install AOL, and this is your internet. That was bullshit. So I think same is with Anthropic and all these things. They are AOL of the AI world, and they will go away. They will disappear, and we will have a vendor neutral, publicly accessible, like we have the internet, the web, right? Yes, for a nominal fee, we all pay, and I'm hoping in the future that the government will cover that if everybody's connected and via satellite or something, right? But these are early days, I think, and this is a childhood disease that we're going through. And this whole, oh my God, the sky's falling, they're going to start jacking up prices and everybody. No, I mean, they think they have us by the balls, but I don't think that's the case, right? And I don't give a shit about OpenAI and Anthropic and all that. It's just like a passing phase, in my opinion.
Right.
Maybe famous last words that people will be laughing at me for saying that. But I see the parallel. Like I see how it went in the past. And we all thought, oh, there's this and that, and then things changed radically. And the progress of technology is unstoppable, no matter what anybody says. I just see it being unstoppable and just accelerating. So here we are at the very vanguard and the frontier. and we just got to stay on top of this, human on the loop, like just kind of keep pushing, exploring. I think totally into what you're saying, Matt, into the kind of personal, I call it butler or assistant, a box that is like dedicated to me, that is not loyal to any corporation or any organization or any establishment or any ideology, just my personal thing, me as a human being, taking care of my well-being and whatever needs to be done. And it knows what my life is all about and what I have to do, and it automates the chores and protects me and all that. This is the utopia that I'm dreaming of.
And I love shooting for that. I think that's exactly the level of dreaming that we need to be doing, and thinking about things at that scale as something that is achievable. So 100% support from me on that one, Alex.
And it could be air gap, maybe not. You can give it permission to go out and grab something, but it's not going to bleed your confidential information to the evildoers. And so you should be, person should be in full charge, in full command, and you can sleep at night and that your data is not bleeding and somebody is not breathing down your neck and trying to suss your soul and figure out who you are. And like somebody says, it wasn't long ago where nobody knew how we look, nobody knew where we are. We were like gods, and now all of a sudden we are just pawns in the game. We lost all that anonymity. Anonymity is superpower, right? And so reclaiming this anonymity, reclaiming your humanity, your human dimension, and not leading your life how you are being corralled and pushed by manipulative, whatever. I think that's the utopia I'm shooting for. Like you say, Matt, why not? If we don't try, nobody's going to do it for us. Nobody's going to come and say, swallow this, I chewed your food for you. That's not going to happen. And even if it happens, it's disgusting. Yeah, I don't want it. So we found ourselves today living in a world where we have overlords, and we have put all our blood, sweat, and tears into that machinery. And now I want to reclaim it. I want to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going to be feeding you more of my personal, because we fell for that hook, line, and sinker. Like I was saying, back in the day, I wanted to publish a book, and I was having clashes with editors, and they really wanted to bastardize my manuscripts, and I just like, hey. And then I discovered that, hey, I can do self-publishing. And so now I fell for it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give you everything about myself just so I can, for the privilege of me being able to self-publish. So I bare my soul. I give everything to that. And what do I get in return? Just bloodied ass hitting me wherever I turn, and just manipulative tactics. I hate that. End of my rant. Sorry, guys. But that's what the guild, in my mind, that's how I came up with this idea about the guild. We got to have a guild of professionals who have been vetted, proven. You guys have a good track record. We are published. We are giving talks. We are internationally. We are present there, and we have proven our technical expertise as well as our professional code of ethics. And now I hope we can build a community that we are obviously to be trusted. We are not some shysters trying to swindle somebody and get some money and run away and then change the brand, etc. So that would be my kind of end game, so that we are reputable. Go to guild that people go and say, okay, well, is this legit? Is this good? Do you recommend we do this? Is this, we could be vetting certain things, right? Same as any other professional guild, right? And that's, I'm very honored to be given a chance to talk to you, to be in your presence and to learn from you and to interact, right? That's fantastic. Like, where do you get that? You don't get that anywhere. Yes, you travel to some conference, but it's very shallow. But here we have this opportunity to kind of week after week meet and elaborate and inch our way towards where we want to get. Yes, there will be some disagreements, to be expected, normal, and it's even desirable. Push back, disagree, please don't hold back. But learn from the mistakes. as Ken Beck says, if everything goes according to the plan, we haven't learned anything. So,
especially in these times where it's all truly frontier in a way that I don't think we're used to.
No.
You know, the last time was the dawn of the internet, and there are some things from the way we used to do it that will survive, and there are some things that will not. And in my view, the entire concept of engineering is undergoing an evolution right now. And you know, who knows what it's going to look like by the end of the year? None of us really know. I think sharing what we're learning and sharing our knowledge, because we're all at different points on the journey and we all have different perspectives. For example, Alex, your point about mutant hunting, that could be a great addition to elves. That would be a great addition to any harness, because that's all we're doing. We're trying to take everything we've learned over the last 20 years, over the last 30 years of how to build software the right way and inject it into some sort of soft membrane that we can mostly control, as long as we have layers of redundancy and deterministic and non-deterministic checks after that to go, okay, well, this is right. Now it's finally ready to ship out. And it's just about injecting those things that we've picked up and sharing what we've learned about that. So I think that's one of the most important functions of the group is helping each other at least be aware of what's possible, and then leaving it up to the individual to choose, is this useful for me in my workflow? And sometimes it will be, and sometimes it won't at all. For people that have to do complex things that involve a lot of tactical level decisions, you're not going to be able to throw stuff through elves. Elves will do the best job it can do, but that it's not always the best approach. You know, so it's not always about, well, just automate all the things. It's about, what's the most intelligent way for me to convert this scope into a deliverable? And that takes all kinds of shapes, you know?
yeah, and it's very counterintuitive. However, prior to AI, we could get away without necessarily really delving into that, because the pace was slow. Now that the pace is really accelerating, the concept that I really hold almost inevitable is what I call the failure must become the first-class citizen. In a traditional approach, failure is always an afterthought. So you go about building a solution and you take the happy path. You wake up in the morning and you are an optimist. You tell yourself, yeah, we are the team of engineers. We know what we're doing. We're going to build this. And it's all up, like, towards the success. Then once we get to the point where, oh, look, this is working, now we start looking into failures and over to the testers, you know, to try and break it, etc. And that used to work because everything was so slow and deliberate, and there was this and I think we need to always start from a broken situation. That I'm if you give me something that works, and like, okay, Alex, all tests are passing and everything, as an engineer, I'm not very comfortable with that, because what do I know? It may have many hidden. The assumption it's working, but God knows what's brewing under the surface. So when I'm building a system, I always start from breakage. Like, this is broken. And the example is, like, if you're a sysadmin in the old days and you have the entire system and the boss says, okay, now let's give access to employees. You're not going to open up to everybody and then you start shutting down for certain roles. You start from nobody can access nothing. It's like completely dead situation. And then when people start screaming, you start opening a little bit of here, a little bit of there. And that way, you know that that there is no like false positives, right? Or false negatives. So I think same is with the system building with AI. Start with a broken situation. Nobody can do nothing. And then this test passes, that test passes. Yeah, we slowly open up a little bit until it's just enough for it to do what it's supposed to do and nothing else. And you know it's not going to have some side effects and some murky areas with a lot of code that you have no idea about this code. And then later on, that code comes back and bites you in the ass. And now it's all hell breaks loose. And now you have your troubleshooting and debugging and paint yourself in a corner. This is my worry with this super fast pace. I prefer to be always breaking things, and why are they broken? Because I broke them. I broke them intentionally. I know why I broke them. I'm the engineer, and
Yep.
I know how to fix them. And once it's fixed, I know it's never going to come back again. And that way, when I'm running systems, and like to Brandon's point, I built a few of these products by, like for example, the popcorn flow. I never even once looked at the implemented code, not even
Mhm.
once, and it works because I built it that way.
Hmm.
And so I'm, as an engineer, I'm confident that this can go live, right? But if I wasn't doing like that, I'd be like, oh my god, I don't know what's going to happen under this and that, some new condition. All of a sudden, everything breaks loose, and then I'm on the receiving end, and now I don't want to be in that position. So
That's
very, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that that is the absolute right way to think about this, Alex, in terms of um, uh, not just providing guardrails, but starting from a broken state. Because if you start from a broken state and you define your success criteria, then you leave less ambiguity to the agent, and that's always what you're trying to do. 99.9% of the time, if AI is not doing what you think it should do, it is a you problem, the general you, in terms of your prompt, your context, whatever. You did not do a good enough job explaining what you needed it to do most of the time. And so I think starting from that failed state is super wise. Um, Folks, unfortunately, I do have to bounce, but I wanted to just say thanks for the chat,
Thanks,
and
everyone. Yeah, we are over
we'll
time.
follow up soon. See y'all.
Thanks, guys. We'll chat soon. I'll stop the recording, and yeah, let's continue. Cheers.